This is a video to help you think about your museum paper for Art 115. Your museum paper will have a thesis that's supported entirely with visual analysis. It will be 700 to 750 words. That's about 3 double-spaced pages. You do not need to do any new research for this paper at all. You're going to submit it on Canvas as a Word document. There are 5 stages of this assignment, and in the video we're just going to walk through those stages. Step 1 is choosing your object. I have a page in Canvas with each of these 7 objects, and under each object is its title with a hyperlink, and if you click on that hyperlink it'll take you to a museum website in some cases that'll tell you some things about the object. In other cases it'll take you to a site on AIGA that will tell you about the artist. The objects that I've chosen are things that are related to the course content that we will have covered by November 1st, which is when this paper is due. They're objects, some of them align well with what we will look at, like I have a Chéret there, and I also have something that looks like Zach Plakat, but I've also tried to incorporate some artworks here by artists of color that aren't very well represented in the Eskilsson text, so there's opportunities here to learn about an artist that wouldn't necessarily have been covered in this class otherwise. So you see here that I have a screenshot of that museum paper topic choices page. This is the Chéret that you can see. And you see there's a hyperlink on the title, but then I also just below it I have page numbers from the Eskilsson that are related to this particular object. Now for some of the objects on this list, those artists are never mentioned in the Eskilsson, but I've included page numbers that are relevant in terms of they talk about similar artworks or what was happening at the time when this artist was producing the particular object. So once you've chosen your object, it's time for visual analysis. You should plan to spend an uncomfortable amount of time with your artwork. I'd say to set a timer for like 30 minutes and just look at it. You should be taking notes. Anything that comes into your head, you're going to want to write down. Maybe sketch it. If you're feeling stuck, just describe what you see. These notes are going to be really important because this is where your argument is coming from. The hyperlink information and the Eskilsson text is always going to be secondary to these visual things that you're going to notice when you're spending time looking at the object. So now that you've spent all this time with the object, look at those notes and look at the things in your notes that you came to over and over and over again. Because in some way, in doing this visual analysis, you've developed an expertise in this particular object. Pretty much nobody has looked at this object as much as you have. The average person, when they visit a museum, they might spend 17 seconds looking at an object. You've spent 30 minutes. Trust your instincts. If there's something that you think is important in this particular object, if you just keep going there over and over and over again, trust that that matters. So once you've identified the thing that is really catching your attention, think about why does that matter? What does it do for the overall object? What might it mean for the overall meaning of the work? And again, that visual thing is going to be most important. Any information you get from the website or the Eskilsson text is always going to be secondary to that primary visual thing. So for example, right here I'm looking at the frontispiece, so the first page of a book that was designed by the American Indian graphic designer Angel Decorah. So it's from 1906, and when I look at this I find myself really focusing on the orange, the geometric shapes, but also the really creative use of typography that we see here. I find myself looking at the different shapes of the letters, the way they intersect with the geometric forms surrounding them. All of those things really captivate me about that. And so as I'm developing this thesis, I might think about that. So using your notes as the database, use that specific visual element to prove your claim. So if I'm really interested in the geometric outlining, I might say the geometric outlines of the text communicate both American Indian aesthetics and contemporary interest in geometric abstraction, because that's happening at the same time as Angel Decorah is producing this. Anyway, so in that sentence I just gave you, I pointed to specific visual things. a less effective way of doing this. So in my bad sentence that I have here, I say the orange outlines look American Indian. Well, you haven't said anything about what those outlines look like or how they relate to any type of visual thing. You just said they look like something, but you weren't specific. So you need to include very specific, obsessive descriptions of the object. You might also consider a comparison. Many of these works are comparable to objects that are discussed in the Eskilsson text or that things that we talked about explicitly in our course content. And so think about how your thesis could be supported with comparative evidence from a similar work of art. Again, thinking about the Decora frontispiece, it's awfully similar to the arts and crafts books produced only a decade earlier by William Morris in the United Kingdom. And so it wouldn't surprise me if Angel Decora is looking at that type of book production and maybe incorporating it into the design that she produces for Wigwam stories. Step 4 is an outline and a peer review. This comes after you've submitted your rough draft. There's more information about this in Canvas, and that's not till the middle of November. And then step 5 is the final copy. So you should take my feedback and your peers to heart. Your paper is probably going to be significantly revised from your rough copy. You also need to submit it on time. Late papers lose 5 points per day. The grading rubric is the same rubric that we've been using all semester. It's 4 parts. The first is the thesis. It should be an idea about the object driven by visual analysis. The second part is stylistic analysis. And so here again, I'm talking about those specific descriptions of the artwork. Saying that it's beautiful or luxurious or colorful is not enough. You need to describe the exact things. Organization. This is basically a 5-paragraph essay, so you should have a thesis that develops across the whole thing with strategic topic sentences that point back to that thesis and transitions. And then finally, presentation. So your paper should have minimal or no grammatical errors, and an A paper will be eloquent. Speaking of eloquence, one thing that makes for a really strong paper is when you avoid using passive voice. Passive voice is when you take a strong verb, like here, to use, and you modify it with to be. So, for example, this is passive voice. Geometric patterning is used. That takes to use and waters it down. A better sentence would be Decora uses geometric patterning, because then it talks about the artist in the active and makes her the primary mover. If you have any questions at all, post it to the questions about the museum paper forum. Send me a thesis idea. Call me. We can Zoom or talk. Send me an outline. Send me a sample paragraph. I'm so excited to see the work that you do on these objects because they're all new objects for me, and I just know I'm going to learn a lot from your work. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the assignment, and like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing your end results.